guys, it's time for a new video. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Backstreet Boy Millennium notebook here and see what we need to film today. You know, this one has been on my list for a very long time, actually since I started YouTube, and I never really wanted to talk about it, and you know what? Today's the day. The reason I didn't really want to talk about this is because there's a great amount of fear by talking about this. It has a little bit to do with the Me Too movement, so if you're not comfortable listening to things like that. So yeah, I wanted to talk about my experience as a tattoo apprentice and going into being a tattoo artist. This is a long story, guys. Like, this was, you know, 3 to 4 years of my life. And there's just so much that happened that, like, it's hard to sum up everything all into one because, like, things would happen every single day. Things that I couldn't even keep track of. Like, I wish I kept a diary back then because just my life was chaos back then. You know, there's a lot of good and bad things about this story. I definitely learned a lot of life lessons and came out a tougher person, but overall, like, this was a really difficult experience for me. So I guess to start my story off, I started my apprenticeship when I was a freshman in college. It was my first semester of my first year, and I just walked right in and said I wanted an apprenticeship. It was the same place that I got like all my piercings done. I had gotten my Monroe pierced for my 18th birthday there, and yeah, it was pretty easy. I think the owner pretty much just hired me because I was a pretty young girl. And you know, like, this tattoo shop was a pretty well-known shop in the town, and it was just like right on a main street, so I think a lot of people came in saying like, oh, I want to be a tattoo artist, and you know. So the thing about being a tattoo apprentice is you are basically working for free. Let me back up a little bit. Basically, they give you the option of either paying them $2,000 to teach you everything up front, or you earn your keep by working at the shop. So you kind of like, this is a very like old school way of doing this. I don't even know if they do this anymore. If they do, I don't even know if it's legal with labor laws. Yeah, you basically have to agree to work for free. And I'm not just saying like handle the front desk every once in a while. Like, you had to work hard, like very hard. There were times where I was on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor with a toothbrush. I kid you not, I actually did that. But I had just a fire in my heart, and this is what I wanted to do, and I just was so determined. Like, I felt something in my soul was like pulling me toward this society, you know? At the beginning of my apprenticeship, nobody took me seriously. Like, all of the artists made a pass at me trying to like get the new girl or whatever. A lot of sexual harassment went down, a lot, every single day. And there was a point where I brought in a big drawing that I was working on, and I had it on my drawing board. And I would just work on it every once in a while. If it was like slow at the shop, duties were done, I could just sit at the front desk and draw a little bit. I left it in the back. I'll never forget, this was a drawing of Marilyn Monroe that I did, and I'm still proud of it. One of the best drawings I've ever done in my life. Really beautiful. And I remember the meanest tattoo artist in the entire shop came to the front desk, slammed his fist down on the counter, and he said, "What the fuck is that in the back?" And I was like, "What, my drawing?" And he was like, "You didn't tell me you could draw." I thought he was gonna yell at me. I was super defensive, and I was like, yeah, like, I'm going to an art college, and I've, you know, been kind of like a prodigy art child my whole life. I don't know. He had a very weird way of talking to me, but he was basically like so seemingly impressed by my artwork, and I showed him a couple other drawings and paintings that I did, and he just seemed so enamored with my work and so impressed that I was like, you know, 18-year-old me was getting really confident, thinking like, here's a tattoo artist who's been in the business for 20 years, and he's like the meanest guy, but he thinks I got it. And I remember he was like, "Oh, you're gonna be my apprentice, and you're gonna be better than Kat Von D," and just, you know, gave me all these promises, and I ate it up. I thought it was real. In hindsight, I think he really did think I was talented. He never really made an aggressive attempt to be sexual with me in any way. So I think there was a combination of he really did believe in me and thought he could help me, but at the same time, he didn't. Like, he really didn't do anything. But I think he just kind of wanted me to be his sidekick or something. I'll never really know exactly why he wanted me to be his apprentice. And so I was for a while, and I worked really hard at that shop. Like, I wanted to show them that I was just in it to win it. Any work that they wanted done, I would do it, even before they would even ask. Like, the shop was always spotless. I did everybody's tubes, I did all their drawings, like I was at the front desk making appointments, calling people. It's funny because no matter how much I did, it never seemed enough. You know, everybody in this shop seemed very jaded, very angry all the time. And I didn't understand why, because, you know, I was 18 years old, bright-eyed, and just so ready for the world. And they kind of started expressing like a little bit of hatred toward me. And I think this kind of came around because, you know, like I said, each of the artists kind of made a pass at me, seeing if like, oh, can I get with her? And one, I was 18 and oblivious, I didn't even know they were hitting on me. Two, even if they were, I would have turned them down anyway because I just wasn't my style. I was like super prude, like, you know, still a virgin, didn't know what was going on, like just it flew over my head. But anyway, overall, I noticed since I showed them my art, things changed around the shop, the way they treated me, the way they looked at me. And there was kind of like a division of artists who were super supportive of me, believed in me, wanted to help me, and other artists who were jealous and outwardly hateful and just kind of like talked shit to me for no reason. And you know, I'll admit when I was 18 years old, I was kind of annoying. I was like loud and super hyper and just like asked so many questions, but the amount of hatred and discomfort that they put me through was just so unwarranted, you know, for an 18-year-old to go through. But this is the kind of behavior that's just expected in the shop, expected at, you know, in the tattoo society, this male-dominated world, you know, this very old way of thinking, you know, and I don't know, I just had my blinders on. No matter how hard it would get, no matter how hard they would work me and how mean they were, I would just come in the next day with, you know, a bold, strong presence, and I would let nothing tear me down. And things got a little better when I call him my apprentice brother came in. His name was Levi, and he's still working in Colorado. I'll leave his shop down below he's working at now. But Levi was like my brother, and he really made things a little bit easier for me because he really looked out for me like a sister. And you know, he was the type of person who had really solid advice, you know, and it was kind of frustrating to see Levi excelling so much faster than I was, basically because he was a guy and I was a little girl, you know. And like I said, there's no denying that the tattoo world is male-dominated. In most shops, they are very sexist. That's just a fucking fact. Most of them, especially if they're old school artists, and I mean old school artists, don't like seeing women holding machines. They don't like the fact that, you know, some of the most famous tattoo artists in the world are women, and it's kind of pathetic. There's really no reason or rhyme for it, but yeah, it was just the unfair truth that Levi, even though I had been there longer, Levi was, you know, soaring, getting so far, and everybody was so nice to him. But it was nice having him there because he kind of was able to buffer the hatred that was coming my way. Like, he got people to ease up on me a little bit, which was nice and saved me a lot of hardship for my mental health. So I just want to emphasize the fact that Levi and I were working for free, and we were working very hard labor. In fact, we worked some tasks that were just like very odd and out of the ordinary. I remember one time they made Levi stand up against a fence, and he was basically target practice for their paintball guns, and he had to just stand there. And he came back in and he had welts all over his chest, and it was just stuff like that, like weird random slave labor kind of things that we were just expected to do to show that we were, you know, committed to the tattoo apprenticeship and we were gonna do anything for it. Like, it was bizarre. There were some things that like they made us do that like were humiliating, degrading, difficult. Like, there were a couple times where like I would wait until they would leave the room and I would just start crying and just like try to keep myself as quiet as possible, and as soon as they came in, I would like wipe off my tears and just like stay silent and steady my breathing and just keep doing what I was doing. Like, it was brutal work. It was like Come to think of it, I probably should report this to the labor laws people, even though this was, you know, years ago, so I don't know if this would matter at all. So the guy that I was talking about, the first guy, we'll call him guy one, who said he was gonna apprentice me, basically never taught me anything. Just kind of wanted to, like, I think he wanted to have ownership over me or something like that. And there just came a point where he wasn't doing anything for me. And it was just kind of weird. And I was just like, I'm working my ass off. Levi gets to learn all this stuff and I'm still like scrubbing the floors and I'm not even allowed to watch people tattoo. Yes, that was a thing. You were not allowed as an apprentice to watch other people tattoo until they deem you are ready. And because I was a girl, I was never deemed ready. I had to fight tooth and nail to get anywhere where everything for Levi came so much easier. And this is no offense to Levi at all, he will fully admit this too, but I was definitely a more experienced and talented artist than he was. But you know, it's just the way it is. Boys have it a lot easier in the tattoo world. And it sucks. So this was during the MySpace days, and I remember it was during around like holiday break. I was off of school and I was just working every single day in the shop. Like I wanted to finish that apprenticeship so bad. And I remember one week they were being particularly hard on me in a sexual way. And I remember one of the artists was on a rolly chair tattooing, and he said, "Hey Eden, come here." And I went to him and he said, "I need you to get down on your knees and in between my legs and tighten a bolt underneath my my stool." And he parted his legs and he was like trying to get me under there. And I was like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. Just outward, in front of his client, in front of everybody, blatant sexual harassment. And he would laugh it off. "Oh, come on, Eden, it's just a joke." You know, they called me Eden at this shop. I went home and it was Christmas Eve and I wrote on Facebook like, something like, so sick of getting sexually harassed at the tattoo shop. And you know, this is me being 18, kind of dumb, new to the internet. The internet was new to us, MySpace, and I just didn't really think about anybody seeing it. But they did. The piercer saw it and she, you know, like brought it right to the manager, and the next day they pulled me into this big, abrasive, confrontational meeting. And instead of asking me, "Who is sexually harassing you? Are you okay? Tell us what's wrong?" they said, "It's your fault for making the shop look bad. You're making a bad impression on everybody." And I remember just sitting there feeling so helpless and broken and trapped and just crying. Like, this was the first time I actually like cried in front of them, but I was like, you know, like bitterly trying to hold it back and just trembling. And yeah, they never even asked me like, "What happened to you? Who's sexually harassing you? What's going on?" Because I would have said everybody. Everybody fucking sexually harasses me. Everybody says something about me or points out what I'm wearing, makes sexual gestures to me, tries to tell me to go in between their legs, things like that. And yeah, like I remember thinking, wow, even like even my female role model in this shop, the piercer, wouldn't stand up for me being sexually harassed when she knows as a woman in this industry what it's like. But yet it was my fault. It was my fault that I was telling the truth and making the shop look bad. This was about halfway through my apprenticeship and I just almost broke down, but I just, God, I wish I was as resilient as I was when I was 18. I just stuck with it and I just went through it and I took on all the burden and I showed up every single day doing whatever mundane, obscure tasks they asked me to do, and I would do it to the best of my ability because I wanted so badly to be a tattoo artist, you know? And I thought this was my path in life and I committed everything I was to this apprenticeship when I really should have been focusing on college, something I'm paying thousands of dollars for, you know, something of real knowledge, real education. You know, at the tattoo shop, they wouldn't teach me anything. They refused to sit me down and show me anything. That was until, I'll just name him because he was good to me. His name was Carl. He was kind of like the dad of the shop. He was pretty nice to me and one of the only guys who wouldn't sexually harass me. And he warmed up to me and he was always really nice to me. He called me Little One and he kind of looked out for me and kind of had my back. And you know, that was a big deal to me, and it was just a relief from the burden because there was only so much Levi could like really, you know, prevent from happening to me because he was an apprentice. He didn't have a lot of like power or say. Even though everybody liked him, he still wasn't regarded as, you know, higher in the food chain. So because Carl was there, he definitely helped lessen all of the hatred that was coming toward me. And he took me on as his apprentice and he started showing me stuff. And I remember the very first time I actually got to tattoo somebody, I bought brand new pink machines. They were flyweights. I was so excited to use them. And I did my first tattoo on one of the other apprentices, who is such a sweetheart. His name was Robert, and I will never forget how sweet he was to me. Like I said, the shop was kind of divided. They either like, this side loved me, but this side wanted me to die, you know, and it was just weird. But yeah, the first tattoo I did was actually really good. Clean lines, great shading, great gradients of color, and I felt really confident. I was like, fuck yeah, this is the beginning of the end. I'm gonna finish this, like, it's gonna be great. And then I remember for the rest of the day, that group that hated me talked so much shit about the tattoo. Oh, those lines don't even meet up. That's the worst tattoo I've ever seen. And I remember like double thinking, like, is it bad? Like, I thought it was good. And Carl even had to pull me aside and be like, no, it's a good tattoo. You didn't blow out any lines. Everything was solid. Like, I'm really proud of you for a first tattoo. That looks great, you know? Every step of the way, that group was always there to tear me down in the most brutal way they possibly could. I remember when I started modeling, I got on the cover of Tattoo Society very quickly when I started modeling. And I remember I was so excited. Like, this is the first big hit of my modeling career, a modeling career that would last 10 years and so on. And it was my very first cover and I was so proud of it. And I remember one of the artists bought the magazine just so he could draw all over it and deface it and basically write fucking slut, fucking die, like basically really immature, hateful shit like all over it. And I remember finding it and just, at this point I was numb to all the things that they did to me. And I was just like, whatever, you know? This is what really made me jaded back then. Like, I used to be so bright, so happy, so like ready to just like take on the world, and they just broke me down every single day in any way that they could. Like, there are so many stories that I can't even like share within all one video. They did some horrible things to me and they said some horrible things to me, things that I can't even say on camera. And I think I've been scared to actually talk about it because of that one instance where I was public about being sexually harassed at the shop that I worked at, and I got reprimanded for it instead of supported. And yeah, I've just kind of kept all of this all to myself because I thought like something bad would happen to me if I was ever, you know, if I was ever honest and, you know, put my story out there. But I think I have to do it because one of the questions I get asked the most is like, how was your tattoo apprenticeship? How was it being in the Tattoo Society? And you know, like, when did you become an artist and things like that? And I just never said anything, you know? And I just feel like I have to just brave it and just say it. Shortly after that, I was, you know, bam, bam, on 2 other tattoo magazine covers. And all of a sudden in Denver, I became kind of like a well-known name, which was very new to me. And it was just kind of like, it just happened really, really quickly. And I kind of became a well-known person in the Tattoo Society, which is a very small community. And man, the other artists hated that. They hated it. And they continued to buy my magazines just to draw all over them, burn them, rip them up, leave them for me to find. And then I remember they got even more bitter when I started getting tattooed by Nico. Nico Hurtado is probably one of the most well-respected, best artists in the entire community. Nico is someone who has brought fine art and respect and just magic to the Tattoo Society. There's no doubt that what he does is incredible, and he has kind of like set the bar for everybody else. He's an amazing man and he's an amazing artist with an amazing work ethic. And Nico took a liking to me. You know, I kept coming out, getting tattooed, and just kind of talking about art with him, and I think he kind of like saw that I had that hunger. Like, I wanted to be an artist, and I loved art, and I was like committed to it. I was going to art school and I was doing this apprenticeship, and I think he had a lot of high hope for me. So like Nico would show me stuff every once in a while, or he would give me advice. And yeah, he just kind of like looked out for me a little bit, like as much as he could from LA. You know, I was still in Colorado, so like every time I would fly out, he would, you know, almost kind of give me like a motivational speech a little bit, and he really like helped get me through that last end of my apprenticeship, like really helped me like fight through it. He's a very inspiring person, so he really kind of like lit a fire in my heart and just like pushed me forward so I could graduate. And I did. I graduated in 2009 and I switched shops. This was like a chain of shops, so I got put into another shop, which was great because at this time there were a lot of death threats toward me. The trouble didn't end there. I was with a whole new group of, you know, old school manly tattoo artists who did not like the fact that a young pretty girl was, you know, tattooing and getting all these appointments and being on tattoo magazines and being friends with the most famous tattoo artists in the world. And, you know, they didn't like that at all. And again, the abuse continued to happen. I tried to just like stay in my own lane, continue to model, continue to just do whatever I could to get by, you know, focus on tattooing, focus on art, focus on school, doing my homework in my station, and just trying to focus, like try to have those blinders on and try to like plug my ears and not listen to anything that they were saying. Like this was brutal. The bullying, the degrading comments, like it never stopped. It was like every single day I was like, what's gonna happen now? What are they gonna say today? And it was just fucking toxic. And this was kind of the tipping point. Nico had given me one of his DVDs where he does like a full tutorial on how to do realistic portraiture with tattooing. This DVD, like if you buy it regularly, it's $100, but he gifted it to me because he believed in me and he was like, here, use this, go watch it, like you're gonna learn a lot from it. So I took it home, went to the shop, sat in my station and, you know, put up my laptop, was doing homework, watching it back and forth. I would watch this DVD like, I don't know, a couple times a week. And I remember I came in one day and the DVD was gone. And I was like, hey, where's my Nico DVD? It's not here. And there was a lot of denial. Oh no, this person took it. Oh no, maybe you lost it. Oh, I don't know, dude, you said it there. Turns out, the owner of the shop, the manager of that shop, took it. And it took him a while to own up to it, and he was like, oh yeah, I was just borrowing it. Like, you don't have any problem with that, do you? And I was like, you could have asked. Like, I would have let you borrow it any time if you would have just asked me. Like, you didn't have to steal it out of my station, you know? And a lot of that kept happening. Like, they would steal tubes, ink cups, whatever they wanted from my station. They basically stole anything except for my gloves because my gloves didn't fit them. And so I started like wasting a lot of my money, replenishing all my supplies, and like there was nothing I could do. You know, if I couldn't go to the owner of all the shops and say like, hey, I'm getting sexually harassed, please help me, then of course he's not gonna do anything if I'm also getting my stuff stolen and being harassed every day and threatened. So I just like had to tough it out. Had to, you know, stiffen my upper lip and just kind of sit through it. But there just came a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was with my boyfriend at the time. And we were sitting in the shop and I was gonna tattoo him that day. And I remember I walked in, I can't even remember what it was, but like, I just looked at him and I said, I don't wanna be here anymore. I don't wanna do it, I can't do this. And he was like, well, let's leave. So we packed up my station, we took, you know, all my tubes, my machines, everything, and we put it in the back of my car. I drove away and never came back. They never called me, never gave me my last check, never asked what happened. I was just gone. And again, there's a lot more that happened within those, you know, 3-4 years that I couldn't even begin to explain, but it was awful. And I think this needs to change in the tattoo world. I think with the old school artists, they need to stop being fucking sexist, because I think time and time again, women have proved that they are just as good and just as talented as anybody else. Like, look at Kat Von D, Kelly Dottie, Ryan Ashley. Like, there are amazing female tattoo artists out there who are just as good. And the fact that there are so many old school male sexist tattoo artists out there who can't stand the thought of a woman being better than them. Guess what? Times are changing. So yeah, that's my story of my tattoo apprenticeship, and this is why I can't do the tattoos anymore. Every time I pick up a machine, even if I'm like trying to tattoo out of my house, I just get a full flashback of everything that I went through, and like being on my toes, walking on eggshells, and feeling like any minute they were gonna like say something hateful or sexist or degrading, or like if I was alone in the parking lot, like what were they gonna do? They had several death threats that they, you know, publicly said in front of everybody about me. And I can't tattoo anymore because I can't deal with the trauma. I did the best that I could, and I really just pushed through all of it as hard as I could, but it was ruined for me. Yeah, the art was just destroyed for me, and I just, as much as I tried to keep going with it on my own, and you know, different shops or just on my own, I just couldn't do it. And the burden was just too heavy in my heart. So, you know, I continued modeling and became like a pretty popular name within the tattoo industry, and you know, that's pretty cool. And I'm still good friends with Nico, still get tattoos, still like love being part of the society, but I don't think I could ever do it again. I don't think I could ever be a tattoo artist again. I guess that being said, I hope that this story is enlightening in some way for anybody, whether you want to go through an apprenticeship, or maybe you are a female and you went through an apprenticeship and you went through the same things. And I hope this is a validating thing to hear, and I hope that this story and all the struggles that I went through like will help you in some way, because I generally don't like to talk about negative things unless I feel like there is a benefit from there, like something to learn, something to gain, something to talk about, something that's worthy of discussion and exploration. So that's my story, and that's what it's like being a tattoo artist in Colorado. So kind of felt good to get that off my chest. I kind of feel better, but I'm still left with a lot of anger in my heart. Like years and years of hard labor for free. And like even when I became a tattoo artist, they would dock my pay. Like they would take my tips, like they would just like rob me. And that was 4 years of really hard work. Hard work and time that I'll never get back, that I'm still to this day so exhausted from. And overall, it made me realize who I truly am, because even after being treated so horribly through that apprenticeship by other people for no reason, I'm still a good person, and I still treat others with respect, and I still have a good heart. And that's something to take away from this. So, if you're going through something and you're struggling and you feel like there's no way out, just follow your heart. Listen to it, and you can't fail. Love you guys. I'll see you later.